Why is she at the sink? Whispers cut through the glittering ballroom as Alana's hands moved beneath cold water, scrubbing dishes that weren't hers. Laughter rippled, sharp and cruel, bouncing off the marble walls. To them she was invisible, just another worker to be ordered around, mocked, dismissed. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know whose home they were standing in. What happened next shattered the room, turning smug smiles into silence. This is the story of a woman dismissed until power walked through the door. Welcome, story lovers. Where are you watching from? Hit the like button and drop your city name in the comments so we can see how far our story travels. It was supposed to be another evening of elegance. The mansion on the hill glowed under golden lights, its windows glittering like jewels against the night sky. Laughter and polished footsteps echoed from within as the city's elite gathered for a party no one wanted to miss. Behind the glamour, the scent of expensive wine mingled with fresh roses, every detail crafted to impress. Guests arrived in gowns that brushed against the marble floors, tuxedos that shimmered under the chandeliers, each face bearing the confidence of power and privilege. Among the crowd, a woman named Alana moved. She carried herself with quiet dignity, her posture calm, though her dress was simpler than most. Unlike the others, she did not sparkle with diamonds or boast of her family's wealth. Her beauty was understated, her presence unassuming, yet her eyes held a depth that spoke of strength. To many there, she was invisible, just another face in a room overflowing with self-importance. Alana had walked through these halls many times before, but tonight was different. She was not announced at the door, nor was she greeted with admiration or courtesy. Instead, curious stares lingered on her skin, whispers passing between painted lips. Some smiled with the kind of politeness that masked judgment. Others dismissed her entirely, as though her existence disrupted the perfection they imagined for themselves. For Alana, it was nothing new. She had felt the sting of being underestimated her entire life, of being viewed through the lens of her color rather than the content of her soul. Still, she stayed composed, knowing something the rest did not. She chose silence where others might argue, endurance where others might retreat. As glasses clinked and music played, an unseen tension wrapped around her like a shadow. Tonight, that shadow would grow darker. Tonight, she would endure something that no one in that glittering room expected. And when the truth came crashing in, it would silence every careless whisper. The music swelled as servers floated through the ballroom, balancing silver trays stacked with hors d'oeuvres. Crystal chandeliers scattered light across polished marble, each sparkle meant to dazzle. Yet for Alana, every glittering corner seemed to expose her more. She had arrived not as a guest, not as the respected wife she truly was, but as someone many assumed did not belong. It began subtly. A woman in pearls brushed past her, eyes narrowing as though Alana's presence near the champagne table were offensive. Another guest, his voice dripping with arrogance, muttered just loud enough, "Must be the help." The words stung, not for their creativity, but for their casual cruelty. She ignored it, though her chest tightened. She had endured worse before. Then came the first command. A middle-aged man, his suit straining against his stomach, thrust an empty glass toward her. "Be a dear, get this refilled." No question. No hesitation. To him, she was not a woman in her own right. She was a service, faceless and nameless. Others followed. A lady gestured at a napkin she'd dropped. Someone else asked about the coat room. Each request, laced with assumption, pressed against Alana's dignity. She felt the weight of every dismissive glance, every whispered remark, each one cutting deeper than the last. When she stepped toward the buffet, perhaps searching for space to simply breathe, the final humiliation came. A younger woman, draped in velvet and entitlement, pointed at the sink behind the catering station. "Those dishes are piling up. You should really get to them before it looks bad." Gasps did not follow. No one defended her. Instead, laughter trickled across the room, shallow and cruel. It echoed against the tall ceilings, filling every corner with mockery. Alana felt the sound seep into her skin, but she did not break. She moved toward the sink quietly, not because she accepted their judgment, but because she knew something they did not. The water ran cold over her hands as she rinsed the fine china smeared with half-eaten delicacies. Behind her, voices rose in careless conversation, people congratulating themselves on wealth they flaunted but never earned. Every clink of a plate reminded her of the imbalance in this room, not of riches, but of respect. For a moment, she let her thoughts wander. She had spent years walking beside her husband, seeing his empire rise from struggle to success. She had been his partner, his confidant, the strength behind his triumphs. And yet here she was, treated as less than human in the very place that was her home. Still, she endured. She kept her silence, though her silence was not a sign of weakness. It was patience. Because Alana knew the truth had a way of arriving when least expected. And when it did, it would not whisper, it would thunder. As the evening wore on, the laughter continued, the mockery deepened, and the guests' arrogance grew. Every insult layered itself upon the last, building a tower of cruelty that threatened to topple. But Alana did not crumble beneath it. Instead, she allowed the tower to rise, knowing that when it finally collapsed, the weight of regret would crush those who built it. And just as the hour reached its peak, the doors to the ballroom opened again. A hush began to ripple across the crowd. Their laughter faltered. Something, or rather, someone, had arrived. The night was about to shift. The heavy oak doors groaned open and the air in the ballroom shifted. Conversation stilled, laughter cut short mid-breath. Heads turned as a tall figure entered, his stride steady, his presence commanding. Dressed in a tailored suit, his confidence was undeniable, but it wasn't his clothing that silenced the room. It was the authority he carried. This kind couldn't be bought with pearls or polished shoes. It was Alana's husband. His eyes scanned the crowd, pausing only briefly on the woman at the sink. For a heartbeat, silence held everything in place, the gleam of crystal glasses, the clatter of a dropped fork, the wide-eyed stares of those who realized too late what they had done. Then his voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Why," he asked, slow and deliberate, "is my wife washing dishes at her own home?" The words crashed down harder than thunder. Faces paled, lips parted, and excuses died in throats. The guests who had mocked her shrank back, their arrogance dissolving into shame. Some tried to laugh nervously, others looked to the floor, but the truth stood taller than any of them. Alana rose from the sink, her silence more potent than their apologies. She had endured their cruelty, knowing this moment would come, and now the same mouths that had mocked her had no words left to speak. The room wasn't filled with laughter anymore. It was filled with regret. "Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments!" The silence that followed was heavier than any insult that had been thrown earlier. People who once strutted across the marble floor now stood frozen, their confidence stripped bare. They exchanged nervous glances, but no apology could erase the ugliness of what had been revealed. The chandeliers still sparkled above them, yet the light no longer felt warm. It felt exposing, as if every hidden prejudice in that room had been laid bare. Alana did not speak. She didn't need to. Her composure told the story better than any words could. She had endured their mockery without flinching, and now she stood as more than just a guest. She was the woman of the house, the proper hostess of the mansion they had so arrogantly claimed as their stage. Her husband's presence anchored the moment, but it was Alana's quiet strength that defined it. The same people who had belittled her now found themselves wishing they could disappear into the walls. Their laughter had been cheap, their cruelty effortless, but their shame would linger long after they left. And beyond that ballroom, the truth echoed louder. This was not just one woman's story. It was a mirror held up to society's face, a reminder of how quickly bias strips dignity, and how blindness to humanity can humiliate not only its target but those who inflict it. How many more women like Alana endure such moments unseen? How many more stories remain untold? She had walked through fire and emerged with grace, and in doing so, she revealed the smallness of those who tried to diminish her. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories and new videos.